If you were told that tens of thousands of children, some as young as 10, were forced into entirely legal marriages in a particular country over the past 15 years, which country would immediately come to mind? The answer may surprise you. It is the United States. That's according to new figures obtained by the campaigning charity Unchained at last. We spoke to one woman, we're calling her Sara, who was just 15 years old when she was forced to marry a 28-year-old man she had never met before. Sara's parents had divorced and she was living with her mother in another state when her father asked her to visit him in California.
We all went to a conference in Los Angeles. It was a religious conference, and I was introduced to a man that morning, and I was married to him that night, so he was a complete stranger. And when I say married, I was spiritually married at 15. And when I saw him for the first time, I was like, wow, this is a man, and I was scared. I remember asking, my family when we were on our way up to the ceremony, where am I going to sleep tonight? I was really concerned about that. Nobody answered me. I basically was just handed over to him. He was from another country, and he took me to his home country, and it wasn't until 6 months later we returned to the U.S., and he legally married me when I was 16 and pregnant in the state of Nevada. The only thing that they require is a permission slip from one parent. Nobody asked me, do I want to get married? I never even saw, my signature on the certificate. I still have it. I never had a say in the matter. Life with him was very erratic. He was very controlling and angry. He wasn't somebody that I would ever have chosen for myself. I never liked him. I never got along with him. I was just extremely, extremely unhappy. And in the meantime, I had 2 children that I had to worry about. But eventually I was able to leave him when I was 23. My freedom was taken away from me at 15. And it was never my choice. And I've been dealing with the consequences of that ever since.
Just one of many thousands of stories of legalised child marriage in the United States. Fraidy Reiss is Executive Director of Unchained at Last, which campaigns for a change in the laws there.
We were able to get a full set of data from 38 states. The other 12 told us they don't even track the data, couldn't provide it. And in just those 38 states, in just that decade, more than 167,000 children, at least as young as 10, were married. Overwhelmingly, these were girls married to adult men. And in many cases, there was an age difference that constitutes statutory rape under that state's laws. Unfortunately, for the most part, the data that we retrieved did not have identifying information about the children. But we know anecdotally the girls and women who call Unchained asking for help when they're being forced into a marriage or already have been forced into a marriage as a child or as an adult. We know that this is happening in every community and culture that you can think of, in every major religion and in a lot of minor religions and secular backgrounds. Families from every socioeconomic level, and both families that have been in America for many generations as well as immigrant families from many different countries of origin.
How is it possible in the 21st century that children, as you describe, as young as 10, can be involved in a marriage in the United States?
It's really shocking. And the problem is that we have an archaic system of laws surrounding marriage that have just been around for too long, have not been updated. And legislators, even now that they're learning about this, are still hesitant to update these laws. So while almost every state in the U.S. does set 18 as the minimum marriage age, every single state, all 50 states, allow exceptions under which children or those under age 18 can marry. And in fact, in at least 25 states, the law does not even specify a minimum age below which a child can no longer marry. And that's why we see children in the data, at least as young as 10. And by the way, there could have been children even younger because, as I said, there is no minimum in at least half of the states. And when the data was presented to us, when states sent us the data, in some states there was an age range, 15 or younger, 14 or younger. Well, how much younger?
What then is in the mind of the New Jersey governor, Chris Christie, when he refuses to sign a bill outlawing child marriage because he's concerned that it might conflict with religious freedoms?
In New Jersey, the bill to end child marriage would have made New Jersey the first state to ban all marriage before 18 without exceptions. The bill passed with overwhelming bipartisan support in both houses of the legislature. Out of 120 legislators in New Jersey, exactly 5 voted no on this bill. And then Governor Christie conditionally vetoed the bill and insisted that 16 and 17-year-olds, who, by the way, are at the age where they face the highest risk of a forced child marriage, should still be allowed to marry. His reason was, we're going to interfere with religious customs in New Jersey. And I have, in fact, clergy members from many different faiths testified in support, submitted testimony in support.
And Fraidy, just to be absolutely clear about that, I'm struggling to get my mind around what you're saying. These children as young as 10 are in legal marriages, not anecdotal or not something metaphorically described as a marriage, but legal marriages.
Exactly. 167,000 children, they were issued a marriage license. And in many cases, they had to go in front of a judge to get permission to marry. And a judge granted that permission, even though it was a child, almost always a girl, marrying an adult, almost always an adult man, with an age difference that constitutes statutory rape.
How, in your experience, are these children able to find liberation from that kind of legally recognized form of abuse?
What happens to a girl who's being forced into a marriage before the age of 18 or already has been forced into a marriage before the age of 18? What are her options for leaving? And the answer is almost none. Because in most states you need to turn 18 in order to become an adult and get all the rights of adulthood, when you're a child, you can easily be forced into a marriage or forced to stay in a marriage because the basic steps that an adult would take are closed off to you. For example, leaving home and getting into a domestic violence shelter. That is the first thing we help our adult clients to do. If a child, even 17, turning 18 tomorrow, if she leaves home, she's considered a runaway typically, and the police will search for her. They'll return her to her home. They could even charge us at Unchained at Last criminally for helping. If we get these girls to a shelter, shelters will almost always turn these girls away. Literally, a shelter said to us, if a girl is turning 18 tomorrow, bring her back tomorrow. Contracts with children generally are voidable. That means retaining an attorney is really difficult for a child because the retainer agreement is worthless. It's a voidable agreement. And also, children are usually not even allowed to bring a legal action in their own name until the day they turn 18. So getting a restraining order against an abusive husband or filing for divorce, these can be extremely difficult, if not impossible, for a child. So why are we allowing them to marry when they don't have any of the other rights that they need to protect themselves from an unwanted marriage?
Fraidy Reiss,